Okay, listen, the setup is really important. The core is in the middle, but put on your listening ears. This is school. It's stuff you have not learned. So you've got to be patient through it, okay? The rest of it, I promise you, it is edutainment. It is infotainment. It is info-edutainment. But the setup is really important. Put on your listening ears, grab your pen and paper, and get ready to learn what I wish every child knew, because life would be so much easier, okay? I will be back at the end because I am asking you to do some things throughout. And when you do, and you continue this journey, then life is about to get easier for you, or you'll at least be able to live with ease in those difficult times, all right? Okay, I'll be back. Bye for now.
Hello. Before we get started, I'd like to ask you a few questions. Can you remember a situation when someone criticized you for what you were thinking, feeling, or doing? And even after giving your reasons, you were still told it was wrong because they would have handled it differently? How about this? Do you have brothers or sisters with whom you've shared the same parents and lived in the same household, but they don't think, feel, or act anything like you? Or do you know such a family? What about that couple you know once loved each other and were really good together, but in the end they parted because of irreconcilable differences? Our differences are far beyond the obvious physical. To echo Andrew Young, if we took away our physical differences, we'd find that most of our conflict would still exist, because most of any conflict is within the individual, and the rest is a result of misunderstanding. You have no problem believing that no two people are the same, but when it comes down to accurately pinpointing what makes them different, you can only describe what you see and speculate on the rest. It's no wonder that self-esteem and the quality of relationships are at an all-time low. If you are having issues of self-esteem, it's because you cannot esteem or place high value on anything you don't understand. The same holds true for relating one to another. It's not enough to know that you have differences of opinions if you don't understand why those differences occur. In fact, without this understanding, a life of internal frustration and conflict with those around you is inevitable. Every single individual has his or her own exclusive method of processing information and dealing with situations. Your way of thinking, your way of feeling, your way of acting and reacting is as uniquely yours as your fingerprint. And once you understand exactly who you are and how you were specifically designed to operate, no longer will you have to endure the put-downs and the feelings of inadequacy caused by others who don't understand your design. My desire for every individual within the sound of my voice is that very soon you are comfortable being who you were designed to be, having healthy and happy individuality and relationships. There are certain things about you that have remained consistent throughout your life regardless of environmental changes. You were born with your own unique way of thinking, your own way of processing information and conveying information. You have a customized design that predetermined how you would process all environmental influences. That design is called your temperament. Your temperament governs how you respond to life circumstances. It distinguishes human differences more than any other factor. For those of you who are computer literate, your temperament is like the hard drive of a computer. Let me make an analogy. Every environmental experience is like software being downloaded. When you see a computer, you know it's a computer. They differ in sizes and shapes, but it's a computer nonetheless. Now, although a computer is a computer, all hard drives are not alike, so they receive and store downloaded information according to its particular design. Thus, every computer has the potential to be different. Likewise, every person, although we all have physical similarities, is different depending on our temperament, plus environmental experiences, which explains how you can grow up in the same household as others, even have the same parents, the same support and moral systems, the same educational opportunities, yet be vastly different. You'll differ in mental attitudes, differ in societal tolerance levels, develop different habits, and have different perceptions of your whole childhood experiences, even though you experience them together. This is vital in understanding sibling rivalries and family tensions. Understanding individuality is the first step to effective communication that will ultimately strengthen the one thing we all love to have and hate to lose: family. Have you ever asked yourself this question? Why am I here? Here. This universe, this country, this state, this family. If you're married, do you remember the day you looked at your spouse and wondered, why are you here? Everybody who's ever been married remembers that moment. The answer to all of these is the same: purpose. You were specifically designed to fill gaps along your path of life that nobody else will be able to fill. You are not designed as a duplicate, even if you bear the name of another. You are not designed to be like him. Being the best you can be ought to be your goal. You'll never be happy until you understand your makeup and live according to your design, not somebody else's desire. I know experientially everything I'm talking to you about. Just like you, I've faced many challenges in my life. I've had people attempting to discourage or change me every step of the way. As a 2-year-old toddler, I was speaking full sentences, and as far back as I can remember, I was ridiculed for being too proper. As a young girl, I didn't like Barbie, neither Ken. I preferred playing marbles in the dirt with the boys. In high school, while the other girls were going out for cheerleading, I was playing baseball, basketball, volleyball, and might have played football if I thought they'd let me. In college, I was told I didn't have what it took to be a communicator. I defeated that lie as well. In corporate America, I was instructed in the roles a woman could play. But they never seemed to suit me, so I made my own rules. If I had conformed to all my critics' desires for me, instead of flowing with what was natural for me, I wouldn't be who I am today, a confident woman living a meaningful life, comfortable in my own skin. Now, sit back and relax, because you are about to join the growing number of those who have become comfortable in their own skin, with their own very unique design of difference. You will immediately begin the process of self-acceptance and unconditional love that only comes when you understand the elements that make up your individuality. Let's look at 2 basic kinds of behaviors. I refer to them as zones: red zone behaviors and blue zone behaviors. Those who are red zones are extroverts. They're outgoing in terms of assertiveness and, if necessary, aggressive. You don't ever have to wonder what they think or feel about anything. They readily express their point of view. Extreme red zone behaviors are verbal hostility, and certain environments can produce violence. Think for a moment about somebody you know who is red zone. Now, let's look at the blue zone. Those who are blue zoned are more introverted, reserved, or shy. They're more passive in their dealings. They're not as likely to take a stance on an issue if it means standing alone. They're more subject to submission than they are resistance. They find it easier to withdraw from situations and people rather than to confront them. Blue zone's tolerance levels are just naturally higher than red zone's. Blue zone extremes are internalized, and they have feelings of dejection, which can cause them to socially detach and become unresponsive. Just going into a shell. This opens the door, though, for depression, and in really extreme cases can bring about suicidal tendencies. Now think of somebody you know who is blue zone. Most people naturally balance out by pulling traits from both zones, but there are those who naturally have all red zone or all blue zone traits. Do you know that there is nothing new? I am not creating a method or a system for you to understand yourself and others. I am simply making sense of what already is. Temperament is not a new concept. It's actually been around as long as people have. The first person to actually recognize the impact nature has on behavioral differences was Hippocrates. Yeah, the father of medicine. This was back around 400 BC. His goal was to treat illnesses with natural means. What he found was that the same natural means would work differently depending on the individual. He focused on 4 fluids of the body and found that in every individual, the fluid levels were different, but each individual's levels remained consistent, and he began treating people based on their natural body fluid makeup. It was also determined that specified behaviors were consistent with each particular body fluid. Galen, on the same premise as Hippocrates, then gave the fluids these complicated names: choleric, sanguine, phlegmatic, and melancholic. I certainly don't expect you to remember those. I am going to make this a lot easier for you. This was, however, the origin of psychology, except it took a very different twist, and now very little emphasis is placed on inborn behavioral significance. This is where it began, and it really is the only thing that makes sense in terms of human differences and how we relate to one another. Now listen, nobody wants to be analyzed, categorized, labeled, or put in a box. And we're all far too complicated in our design for that to even be possible. We all, however, want to be understood. As the zones are divided into the 4 temperament types, remember that nobody will fit perfectly into any category. As you listen to me describe traits of each category, pictures will be painted of people you know, even yourself. But there will likely be traits in the predominating category that will not fit, and you'll be able to pull traits from other categories that will apply. Don't try to fit a round peg in a square hole. Either it's you or it's not. Have fun with it. This can be a liberating moment for you. This is also an opportunity for you to see how you've evolved over the years because of experiences. Allow this to be the start of your awareness of individuality. Now I want you thinking in terms of priorities. We all have things that rank higher for us than other things. In terms of individuality, there are 4 basic priorities. There are goals, ideas, people, and tasks. The way you respond to environmental circumstances depends on your priority. Let's start with the red zone priorities, goals and ideas. The goal-oriented person is focused. Their concern is on what needs to happen. What is the bottom line? They're big picture people, and once they know a goal, they just step out to do it and work out the details later. They don't like a lot of data, so they are likely to rush you along when they feel like you're giving too much information. They only want relevant facts. They're very decisive individuals. They make decisions easily for themselves, and you too, whether you want them to or not. And with less information than most would need, they intuitively seem to make choices to their advantage. They're courageous. Remember, for them, it's about what needs to happen, so they don't even consider that it can't or won't. They just do it. They're very strong-willed, always ready to take the lead, independent sometimes to a fault. They have no problem standing alone. In fact, they find it easier because to them, others tend to hold them back. They can appear merciless, unkind, even cruel to those who are not like them. This is because they're so focused on the future that it's not natural for them to stop and deal with what they consider to be spilled milk. In their own lives, when things don't go as expected, they're able to pick up the pieces fairly quickly and move on. They're usually the ones pulling others out of the pits of life, telling them, come on and go on. The level of success with the lifelines they throw others, however, depends on how quickly the ones drowning grabs on. Simply, they have a need to achieve, regardless of being liked in the process. The well of compassion doesn't go very deep in them. They are easily viewed as stubborn or arrogant. To others, they give off an air that says, I'm better than you are. And their superior attitude can be intimidating to those around them. They are very straightforward in their approach to situations and people. If you've ever been whipped with a tongue, it was likely by one of theirs. They are direct, even curt, and they rarely lose sleep after a confrontation. Even loved ones and friends agree they can be mean. Emotionally, they're considered hot because of their temper. They have a low tolerance level for anything and anybody standing between them and their goals. I know a picture has been painted of somebody you know. Keep that picture in mind. Now for the other red zone priority, the idea-oriented person. They're easy to recognize because they have a natural high raw energy that just won't quit. Any time of the day, they're bouncing off the walls, and if you're not like them, they're driving you crazy. Ideas are important to them because they are sincerely interested in new things. They are creative and can take new ideas and soar with them. Their natural high energy level welcomes change and variety. In fact, their middle name is spontaneous. The whys of life are important to them. They can understand well that something needs to happen, but they always want to know why, especially if they're being asked to do it. They're charismatic, persuasive, and likable. If you're having a party, you want them there. They're the life of every party. They're the best storytellers. In fact, they tell such great stories, you feel like you're living the experience. If you've been around them long enough to have heard their stories, you'll find that as they're told over and over again, they change. So exaggeration and manipulation are not uncommon. They are filibusters of all filibusters, trying to talk themselves in and out of everything. They suffer severely with diarrhea of the mouth. They truly do believe that everybody's entitled to their opinion. Because they are idea-oriented, they're always looking for new things to engage in. They are easily distracted and lack discipline. They have short attention spans and are disorganized. They avoid boredom like the plague. They're always juggling several projects at once, and many go unfinished. They're easily excitable and will do just about anything for the fun of it. Being such friendly, approachable people, they can't imagine anybody not liking them. They can make light of any situation. They're rarely offended, but when they are, they'll blow their top with much regret shortly after. Daily, they have what I call a head-to-mouth gumball experience. Whatever they think usually comes out. They are risk-takers who are not discouraged by failure. They like being the center of attention and have huge egos that need stroking. Oh, and recognition for their contribution is important. If they contribute something and you don't acknowledge it, everybody they talk to will know. Emotionally, they are considered warm because they are really compassionate people. They wear their feelings on their sleeves, and every emotion for them is big, so you don't ever have to wonder what they're feeling. Now think of somebody you know who's idea-oriented. Let's move on to the Blue Zone priorities, people and tasks. Remember, these are more shy, reserved, or introverted. Those who are people-oriented are the most easygoing, calm, even-tempered people you've ever known. Naturally caring, they're self-sacrificing, making sure they take care of others before themselves. They're non-judgmental, accepting of all. They truly can see to the heart of a person, even in spite of what they might be doing or have done. A college buddy of mine's family calls her Benny because she's always giving people the benefit of the doubt. And that's what those who are people-oriented do. They're always looking for the good in people. They're peacemakers, the best mediators around because they care about reaching agreements that everybody can live with. Peace is so important to them that they often give in on things that they want to satisfy others. At any age, they've always seemed to be so much more mature. They feel the same emotions as everybody else, but they're not as expressive or reactionary as others. Their demeanor is cool, calm, and collected. If you're not one of them, you wonder how they do it. They're coordinators and facilitators. They're not likely to jump right into activities, especially new things. They'll blend in the background until they see how things operate and how the people are being treated. They'll see where they fit in and fall right into place. Then you can't tear them away. They have a lot of friends because they're such good listeners. I always say they're the glue to every family because their perspective to every argument bears the same theme. Family unity matters. Issues don't. They're known for their willingness to adapt, and it's their flexible nature that gets them in trouble because others take advantage of them. Then we see their passive aggressiveness. They're not likely to argue, but they'll only be pushed so far before you see their resistance. They don't respond well to others who set out to change them. Remember, they're accepting of all. If this is their predominant nature, you can see it. They usually walk slowly and talk slowly, and appointments don't mean much to them. They're on time whenever they get there. Emotionally, they're considered cool. They don't naturally have outward demonstrations of hostility. Think of somebody you know who is people-oriented. Now let's look at the other Blue Zone priority, the task-oriented person. People who are task-oriented are analytical by nature. Their main focus is on how. And they're always asking questions. How should I do this? Or how is that supposed to work? Or how often should that happen? Always howing something. I call them connect-the-dot people because in order to understand things, they have to see how it all works. They're usually very visual people, imagining the process. They're often found staring off in a gaze. They're mostly concerned with details and procedures because they're most comfortable when they know exactly what's expected of them. They need details. Procedures serve as a roadmap and a safety net for them. They're capable of carrying out everything they understand, but they won't even attempt to carry out anything they don't understand. They are most dependable. If they tell you they're going to do something, they're going to do it. It's important to them that they're known for being accountable. They're orderly. For the predominant task-oriented person, orderly is an understatement. They can be methodical, even anal, in how they operate. They develop systems, specific ways of handling things, and can be very rigid about maintaining them. People who aren't as organized as them are annoyed by their meticulous style. And, of course, they think everybody who's not like them are just slobs. Really disciplined people, they've been called boring because they usually play by the rules. Rarely is there an area in their lives that appears out of control, although their perfectionist nature doesn't allow them to believe that about themselves. And it's that analytical thought process that can be self-destructive. They internalize issues and are often down on themselves. Although introverted, it's not to the point of avoiding because they are concerned with how they're perceived. Oh, and they're sensitive people. Their sensitivity is twofold. They seem to have a heightened sense of awareness, noticing smells and sounds before anybody else. If they say they smell something, if they say, smell that gas? Oh, it won't be long. There's a gas leak somewhere. If they say you hear that drip, you may not hear the drip. The drip could be in the basement, but there is a drip. And their feelings are hurt easily. That's the other side of their sensitivity. You know, if I walk up to somebody who's task-oriented and I say, oh, your hair is really nice today, they'll say thank you. But they'll be thinking, what was wrong with it yesterday? Remember, their MO, their very method of operating, is naturally analytical. So they break down things most people wouldn't even consider. Their sensitivity causes problems to those who are closest to them because they're constantly offended at something. Emotionally, they're considered cold because when they are offended, they can give cold shoulders like no other. They go into a shell and have a mean, cold streak. Think of somebody you know who's task-oriented. The 4 people who came to mind, keep them there. I'll ask you to recall them again later. Did you notice that every priority had both good and bad traits? Awareness of individuality is to validate who you are, not to justify where you are. It's a relief to know that there are reasons behind your behavior, but knowing why you do what you do should not serve as an excuse to continue doing them. The goal of every individual ought to be to recognize and maximize all of their goodness, at the same time recognize and minimize everything else. Those bad traits are as natural as the good, and when they're nourished, they just get stronger. It's easy to look at others and know the behaviors that tend to get under your skin, but do you know that to the same degree that that person is getting on your nerve, you're getting on theirs? This is a good time to recall the 4 people you had in mind as we describe the different priorities.
Those 4 people who came to mind, well, they are part of your life school. Yes, life school. Just in case you didn't know it, darling, that's what this is. Life is school. It's so you can get better at it. Those 4 people are to help you get better at being you. Now that you have at least the fundamental tools of temperament to be able to understand the full spectrum of temperament, individuality, of course, for each person, now there are layers. The first layer is temperament. For everything you just heard in each of those priorities, then each person has the temperament, and then there's some other layers on top of it that are environmental, that are producing what you see in them. You have the same thing. You're far better equipped than most people now. And as part of your life school, it is now your responsibility to figure out how to first integrate your own temperament and environmental layers so that when you integrate them, you can remove the sting of all those painful places. Listen, oh my God. I am so excited about where you are and what this is doing. What this is going to do for so many of you. It's helped so many people for the past 20 years, and I am thrilled to be able to share it with you now. Others have learned through trainings with me or just buying the products. I'm giving you the core of my first publication. Listen, life is meant to be enjoyed. Okay? Sure, there are other pieces to it. Yes, there's a lot more to it. But this will get you on your way, especially parents. If you are a parent, if you have children, you have a responsibility. At least if you want to have a good relationship with them, especially today. Listen, children they are figuring out. They have come for themselves. They ain't come for you. They're going on about their business, as they should. Okay? You can't obligate your children for anything. You have to be able to nurture them and create relationships that are based on respect for who each other are. All right? Okay, I'm out of here. There's some noise happening out here. Hell, horses and buggies and shit passing by. So I've said the gist of what I needed to. I really hope that this has done for you what it needed to do. And if it's caused some emotions, if it's caused you to feel like a whole lot of people have, and that is, I wish the hell I've known it sooner. Listen, things happen as they ought. All right? Things happen as they ought. And it's never too late. If you're learning it now, this is the time. Ready to kick in gear? Because I'm ready to grab you by the hand and continue this journey with you. If you will grab my hand, I promise you, I'll keep giving you specific stuff. Now, when I talk to you about individuality, you can no longer hear anything I say in a general sense. No. You're going to hear it based on who you are. You're going to hear it and understand that while this strikes you a particular way, it's going to strike the next person entirely different. Why? Because we are each individuals, very different, built differently. And that's the way it's supposed to be. Okay, I'm going to hush now because this is a very long video, but I think it's worth it. All right. I'm glad you're here on this journey. Hey, it's your life. Choose it just as it is. Own it, the good, bad, and the ugly. Change it. As long as you can breathe and learn, it can get better. I'm Zara. Bye for now. Here's to living clarity. I'm so excited you're equipped with this. Bye-bye.